All right, we're going to do, I don't know why I had that up yet, a little bit out of debate, tour guide, intro to debate. And we are looking at specifically the debater's role while listening, page 37. You're welcome to follow along. I'm just going to read for a little bit here. It says, taking notes with a flow chart. Flow charting is a verb to debaters, just like it is to computer programmers and project managers. Flow charting is the art of making very brief notes and organized columns to ensure all four debaters are tracking one another in a debate. There are a few different versions. It's okay to teach one form, but debaters will eventually morph the form to the way they think. New debaters often get so caught up in listening to the debate that they forget to take notes and then forget arguments later. It is a sign of a seasoned intellect to be able to think, listen, and write all at the same time. Flowcharting hones the skill. Debate has many benefits for students, not the least of which is note-taking practice. If you're debating with a partner who needs to read your handwriting, you have an extra incentive to write neatly and quickly. Students who wish to practice this outside of debate can practice by taking notes to their pastor's sermon each week. They should try to identify the thesis and the strongest and weakest points used in its defense. During the debate, students usually use long legal pads to flow the round. They divide the pad into a number of columns with a ruled line. The first column lists the particulars of debate that a team is listening for. Definitions, harms, plan, advantages. Each subsequent column is a space for notes from each speech. The 1AC, 1NC, 2AC, just like we made on our legal pads. Some use symbols to keep notes, others write single words. Most mix mediums. For example, if definitions, harm A, harm B, mandate, agency, enforcement, advantage A, and advantage B are listed in the first column, the flowcharter may put one-word reminders like death, taxes, or 10% to remember the argument given. Some students include a column for cross-examination, and some just keep a sticky pad for cross-examination questions so they can hand them to their partner to use. Students can also put sticky notes into their own speeches so they remember new ideas to argue as they are listening. Others fold up the bottom of the page to form matching columns that can be used to write questions. No matter how you do it, ideally, by the end of the debate, an outsider should be able to follow each line of argument across the chart, left to right, from beginning to end. All right. Here's a picture of that, just to remind you what we've done. Here's the folding technique. You can go into the back page by using that folding it up method they have in that right there. And then you can see some examples of ways that people have flowed from left to right and drawn a lot of arrows. You can see that not every space is filled. It's just they took notes on what they wanted to. And so, what are you supposed to do when all that's happening? I'm glad you asked. Let's see here. Preparing for upcoming speeches. So, during the 1AC, the other affirmative, the second, the 2A, listens well. If the 1AC runs out of time, misses a key point. It should be over a little bit so you can see my 1AC. Runs out of time, misses a key point, or misspeaks, so something like didn't when he meant did, for instance. The second affirmative has to quickly prepare to recover when it's his or her turn to speak. So you're listening for errors if you're the partner of 1A, and you are ready to fix that when you get up. If you're a negative team, the first N listens very well and makes a flow chart. Everyone should be quiet during speeches. Minimize any whispering. If a listening debater needs to communicate with his partner, he can pass her a sticky note. 2N listens well and writes clarifying questions in preparation for cross-examination. So 1N makes the flow chart. 2N is prepping to cross-examine. So during this, the 1N reads the plan and chooses evidence from her printed research, more on that later, to counter the points that are made. This requires quick thinking and organized evidence. The second A, or 2A, listens to questions and begins to pull evidence to refute possible problems or shore up evidence given. So that's what's happening here. Then we have prep time. The 1 and 2A confer on flaws to overcome and pull evidence needed. Thank you, Maisie. The 1 and 2N quickly find evidence to counter each point of the case. They have never heard the case before, so now they have to scramble to argue. You just have a couple minutes there. 1NC, that is, so 1N gets up to talk. The second negative listens well. If the 1NC runs out of time, misses a key point, or misspeaks, the second 2N has to quickly prepare to recover when it's his turn to speak. The 1A listens well and writes clarifying questions. 2A listens well and inserts notes into her flowchart that counter what she is listening to. So what I think is important to know is that remember here is that we're listening to what the listeners are going to be saying. And so maybe in a different video, I will do what the speakers are saying and what they're focusing on. But right now we're looking at if one end is speaking, what is everybody else doing, etc. Down the line. All right. During the cross-examination of 1N by 1A, right here, the 2A listens and pulls evidence to counter points made on the flowchart. 2N listens to the questions and pulls evidence to refute possible problems or shore up evidence given. Then, during the prep time, the 1 and 2A confer on laws to overcome and pull evidence that is needed. And 1 and 2N quickly find evidence to counter each point of the case. They have begun to understand this case, and now they must strengthen their points of attack. Then we have 2AC. I started writing smaller because I was like, oh, there's a lot more to go. 2AC. So during that speech, first 1A listens well, and if 2AC makes an error, first affirmative has to help recover during the rebuttals. So that's the only other time they have to talk, which is later on. 1N listens well and writes clarifying questions, and 2N listens well and inserts notes into a speech that counter what he is listening to. Then we have a cross-examination, 2A by 1N, right down here. Second negative listens and, sorry, did we just do that? No. It's the second 2N listens and pulls evidence to counter points. So this is what they're doing while the cross-examination is going on. And they're looking at their flow chart, prepping for the rebuttal is what's happening. 1A listens to questions and pulls evidence that will clinch the affirmative teams the points in the rebuttal. Everybody's prepping for the rebuttals already. Prep time, right down here. First, 1 and 2A confer on flaws to overcome and pull the evidence needed. 1 and 2N quickly find evidence to counter each point of the case. They begin to understand this case, and now they must strengthen their points of attack. 2NC, down here. There we go. 1N listens well, and after the break, 1N speaks. So there's only the cross-examination, prep time, and then 1N is speaking, so they're really preparing. 1N is. Then 1A listens well and adds notes to flowchart to prepare for rebuttal. 2A, same thing, preparing for rebuttal. Cross-examination, 1N listens while 2N is getting cross-examined and begins to summarize major points for the first rebuttal. The 1A listens to questions and begins to prepare responses for the rebuttals. They have a prep time. 1 and 2A confer on rebuttals, and 1 and 2N confer on rebuttals during the prep time, and then the rebuttals happen. And we're going to stop there because that's as far as we're going this semester with our debate. So we aren't actually going to act out the rebuttals. We're just getting through this far, and the next semester we'll go all the way through the whole debate process. All right, thank you for listening. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.